Welcome to week 4. I really like week 4 in the Biblical Parenting Coaching Program because in week 4 we're able to move to the next level. You see, what we've done already, if in the first 3 weeks, is we've worked on the instruction routine. Children are learning how to give up their agenda. They're learning how to let things go, and they're learning how to respond to parents. That's going to be important for emotional management. Any kind of an emotional management you need to let it go. Whether it's sadness because you're disappointed, you need to let it go. Anger, you need to let it go. If you're angry about something, if you're anxious about something, you need to let it go. So letting it go becomes this very important idea, and we train children using the instruction routine to let it go when you come when called. So there's some basic things that are learned in the instruction routine that are teaching children about obligation, about separating from their activity to obey the parent, to let the parent lead instead of the child leading. All of these things are very important for developing trust, and they're helping a child strengthen the conscience. The instruction routine is very powerful, and it helps children to be able to move forward in a positive way. And in the first 3 weeks, we've moved from compliance to cooperation to contribution. And so I usually am adding that on each week. Even though we started in the second week to work on the correction, we're moving still in the first week of material all the way through those first 3 weeks, helping children first learn to comply, then we learn how to cooperate, and then we learn how to contribute. That becomes the getting things done department. We usually see major changes in a child's life in those particular areas. Now, once we get that done, or we're starting that in week 1, we move into week 2. This is when a child's off track. And when they're off track, we use the break and the positive conclusion as our primary tools, because those tools are designed to emulate repentance, because a child is pulling back, settling down, and then coming through the 3 questions where they're answering the question, what did I do wrong? Why was that wrong? What am I going to do differently next time? Very important process that every child needs. It changes their perspective on correction. It helps them to see correction as a gift instead of as some kind of a punishment. Parents are making changes, so when the first 3 weeks, we're changing the dynamic between the parent and the child. We're increasing relationship. We're also increasing the interaction between parent and child. We're streamlining that, so we're not having too much talking, but we're doing enough talking to get things done. In the correction process, we're not getting sucked into a child's anger. All of these things are being processed in weeks 1 through 3 and become the foundation for what we can do in week 4. Now, in week 4, we're now able to deal with whatever the parent was concerned about at the beginning. I call these strongholds. If we have a problem with sibling conflict, or a problem with lying, or a problem with anxiety, or a problem with anger episodes, any of those things we can address. But it's really hard to address those if we don't have the basics down. So our goal is to strengthen the relationship between parent and child, know how to go through the 2 cycles, the one cycle of getting things done, and the other cycle of being off track and recovering and getting back on track. If we can do both of those, then we can move forward and we can enter into whatever the parent needs to work on with that child. We can go into sibling conflict because it's much more complex of a relationship, and we can help children. We can train them to know how to deal with conflict, manage emotions, and have creative problem solving and gracious communication. So those kinds of things happen in sibling conflict. What we're doing is we're moving children into some solutions. If a child is having trouble with anger, we're helping them with a specific plan. That's why in week 4 we use the T-chart. The T-chart is the 4th of our structured techniques that we use. We have a lot of other ideas, but these become, the first is the instruction routine, then the break, the positive conclusion, and the T-chart. We don't always use the T-chart, so if your parent doesn't need the T-chart right now, I wouldn't force them to use it. But if we're going to deal with a stronghold that a child has, the T-chart becomes essential because it transfers responsibility to the child and gives them a very specific plan to work on. So we're working forward using the T-chart. Now, this T-chart is a plan, and you can watch the videos about this. It helps a child to be able to develop ways to think, by the things they say and the things they do. And when they're doing that, it starts to bring about change in them. We're helping them to develop that in some positive ways. This is probably a good time for me to suggest to you that you consider getting involved in Thriving Kids Connection. So let me tell you about that, because if you're involved in Thriving Kids Connection, you have a number of benefits. Now, Thriving Kids Connection is the online training support, continuing education program for coaches and parents. Some of these parents have been through the coaching program already. Some of these parents have not got into the coaching program. In fact, some of the parents get into the Thriving Kids Connection, and from there, some coaches working with them inside of that program, online site, and they go into the coaching program with that coach. So it's a great place for us to interact. We developed all the material on anxiety in there. We developed the infographics that you have. Many of those were developed in this program. All the material on the electronics addiction infographic was developed there, and so we interact. So last week I posted in Thriving Kids Connection the question about why teenagers rebel, and so we're going to be interacting, and that may turn into an infographic at some point. It depends what kind of information we gather and what it looks like when we're done. So the point of week 4 now is that we can transition into all kinds of different things, specifics. We can't always do that. You have to realize that if we haven't gotten down what we need to get down in the instruction routine, break, and positive conclusion, then we just keep generating new ideas for parents, helping them to work on that. There are times when that's where I spend all of the coaching time, is with those 3 tools, helping parents to embrace them. And I tell them, don't worry about the rest of the program. Let's just keep working on these things in order to get those down. Once we get those down, though, then we can take on any challenge that a child has. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, several autism kinds of challenges that parents face. We can deal with any of those things in order to help them move forward. Now, in Thriving Kids Connection, you can continue to interact with me after the coaching is over. The cost is $29.95 a month. However, you can use this code to get $25 a month. The code is 25254 FOR Life, 25 for life. And if you use that code when you go to sign up for Thriving Kids Connection, then you'll be able to get in there at a less expensive rate. And then when you're in there, you have a number of benefits. One of the main benefits that coaches like is if you're working with a client and that client is having some challenges that you're not able to address, I will meet with that client, and certainly through Thriving Kids Connection, we'll interact about certain cases and clients you have. So that's Thriving Kids Connection. Also, biblicalparenting.org is a website that has over 550 pages. Lots of content there that you could send parents to. Specifically, check out the blog, because the blog has lots of articles represented in this program. So there's a blog article about the instruction routine. There's another one about the break, another one about the positive conclusion, and a host of other blog posts that you can use as tools to pass on to parents. And you say, hey, here's a good blog post. You might want to take a look at this to just confirm some of the things that we've talked about. Let me encourage you to create a special online notebook. Some of the conversations we're having in Slack right now, or in our online platform, are really valuable. So take those and create an online notebook so you have those conversations. We won't have this online platform to interact with over time. It'll disappear. And so you want to take the good things you're seeing there in the discussion forums and so on that you can use. Also, you should have a physical notebook that contains all kinds of things that you can flip through and check out as well. So those are some ideas for you. I encourage you to move forward. I'm excited to see what we're going to do. I'll be interacting with some of your clients, I hope, because I think that's a real benefit to being in this training. If you're having some real challenges with this parent and they're not progressing as well as they should, then we should be talking. In addition, you can watch me and how I'm interacting with some of my clients, and that'll give you some additional ideas as well. I trust that this is going to be helpful for you so that when you go out, you'll feel confident that you can help all kinds of parents work with all kinds of situations to help their children using a heart-based approach. So enjoy this week. Let's see what God does and how God uses His grace to bring about breakthroughs in children's lives.